under the Online Safety Act, was that just in 1 year, or is that since it?
That was in 2023 alone.
Okay.
But that isn't just under the Online Safety Act. So I think what's particularly insidious and particularly relevant about statutes like the OSA and the DSA is that these are portals through which existing censorship laws get applied to the internet. So a lot of these Brits are arrested under under existing statutes, like there's a Communications Act, there's a law against inciting quote-unquote racial or religious hatred, and we, I think, have differences of opinion about what amounts to incitement in America versus the UK. But so, for example, you had a comedian called Graham Linehan who tweeted that if a woman sees a penis in a ladies' room, she should feel free to kick that guy in the balls. And that's something a lot of comedians say, and I think it channels an impulse that a lot of Americans and Europeans would frankly consider common sense. But he was dragged out of the airport like a terrorist, had his devices confiscated, was thrown in jail overnight, and lost access, my understanding is, to his heart medication, if I recall correctly.
And because this was an incitement to violence?
Because this offended some existing law against provocative speech in the UK. And the Online Safety Act is a device through which all of those existing laws get applied to the internet. You had another case in the UK where Joey Barton, a footballer, called somebody a Bike Nonce, which nonce is not an American term, but I imagine you're insinuating someone is effeminate for riding a bike so much or in the manner that he rides the bike. And that resulted in a suspended prison sentence, but still a prison sentence.
Because he called somebody zesty.
Yeah, basically.
That's what we call it in the United States now.
And there were some other tweets too, but none that would meet the bar for American incitement. So, David, you're absolutely right. So that was in a single year of slightly over 12,000 Brits arrested for speech acts. And that is more than were arrested that year in Russia, more than in China, more than in Turkey. And when you talk to Brits about this, you're absolutely right. Most of the British people that you talk to say this is totally unacceptable. And if you look at the polls in the UK, you see public sentiment against this kind of thing. But I've had, both public and private engagements with regulators in these countries, and the defense you hear is, well, we have a less chilling, less totalitarian environment than China, so maybe more people are willing to break the rules, more people are willing to offend. But if you arrest 12,000 people a year for speech and you're raising children in an ecosystem where you can be dragged out of the airport for offending the dogmas of transgender activism, then you might not have a different culture than China for long.
And why should the United States be paying to defend your country and support it in fighting, say, a proxy war against Russia, if that's basically the values that are being enforced?
Right, exactly. When we interact with our NATO allies in the NATO context, we hear a lot about our shared history and shared values. And it's time to ask, what values do we still share?